Hello guys, welcome here to another edition of Out of Turn 4. Sorry I have to record this on a Monday, but unfortunately my schedule did not allow me to record it Tuesday after the big announcement that happened earlier today. But basically, I guess I'll give my thoughts on what I believe is the announcement, and then next week we will give my thoughts on the actual announcement that happened. Of course, I'll talk about this a little bit later on. But of course, today we're going to talk about the NASCAR race at Kansas. We're going to talk overall the 2022 NTT IndyCar season as Will Power was crowned champion. Of course, we'll get into more details than that in a moment. And then, of course, some other big announcements this week, as well as the race picks for Bristol this weekend. But we kick things off with NASCAR Kansas, and John Hunter Nemechek, well, he prevented Carson Hocevar from advancing into the next round of the playoffs. He wins on a last lap pass at Kansas on Friday night. It is his second win of the season, his 13th career win in the Camping World Truck Series, and of course, as mentioned, he prevented Carson Hocevar, as well as three-time Truck Series champion Matt Crafton, from advancing into the round of 8 for the Truck Series playoffs, and that's unfortunate. Again, I didn't watch much of the race, if any of it, but it's good to see John Hunter win. Of course, with the news that I'm likely about to drop after we discuss the race weekend, his future might be uncertain, so it's good to see him get some wins as he looks to climb the ladder. Alright, NASCAR Xfinity Series, and of course it was rain-shortened, but Noah Gragson would win the rain-shortened race, his 5th win of the season. Man, how are the haters not crying about this one? Is it because he cries, or is it because he drives for Junior this year? I don't know, but congratulations to Noah Gragson. He will go to, he's really the one that I think has the best shot of challenging Ty Gibbs for this title, so I can't wait to see, what happens when we get going in the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs, which again kick off after next race at Bristol. On the Cup side, it was yet another non-playoff driver spoiling the show. Bubba Wallace was able to hold off his boss Denny Hamlin, and he goes on to win the NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas. It's his first win since Talladega, his second career victory, and of course it allows 2311 to sweep Kansas Speedway this season, and hence also why I'm wearing the shirt, because I'm not a hater like half of the keyboard warriors that are out there. Man, I'm telling you, 2311 has come quite a ways in the last couple months, and they're looking strong. Of course, not necessarily next season, but the season after, they will be getting Tyler Reddick in the paddock or in the garage, so that'll be a huge acquisition for them in terms of their growth. But man, it's the Kurt Busch effect for this team. It appears that Kurt Busch has really helped this team grow so much in the last year or in the last few months. So good win by Bubba, and I'm glad, and just like he did, I'm glad he did this to the haters, because you know what? It's been getting ridiculous. Bubba's a talented driver. I'm not saying all Bubba haters are racist, but when you target the guy, actually, I'm not even going to get into that topic, so we'll just leave it at that. I'm not saying all Bubba haters are racist, but, certainly, I just don't get the hate for him. He's a hell of a driver. He's bringing a lot of sponsorship dollars into the sport. And that's all I can say about it. Again, I don't want to get political here. I don't want to get tied into things. I'm sure I've already crossed that line by starting out with what I said. And if I did, I apologize. But it's the truth. I'm not saying all Bubba haters are racist. But And I'm not a Bubba hater. I think he's, like I said, a talented driver. He's one of my favorites. I like his personality, and I hope to continue seeing him win in the sport. On to IndyCar now. Laguna Seca. Alex Palou crushed the field, man. He was up by 30 seconds at one point, and I believe this was at the end of the race. He was untouched as he won at Laguna Seca, his first win there. Chip Ganassi's first win at Laguna Seca since the 1990s, when Alex Zanardi took the team to victory lane. Of course, it was the third race back there in quite a few years. Colton Herta won the first two since returning to Laguna Seca, and now Alex Palou adds his name to the list of most recent winners there. But he did not win the title. He was nowhere in contention for the title, and Will Power went on to become a two-time IndyCar Series champion. Again, didn't watch much of the race. Football was on this week. As you guys know, football season is back. So that kind of determined what I was going to watch on Sunday. I did tune in for the last little bit of the race. Congratulations to Will Power. He's not one of my favorites. I'm not really a fan of Will's, but, to see him come back after quite a few rough seasons, and I thought for sure that would put him on the block to go to IMSA in the next couple years. So good to see him get a championship and at least put those IMSA pasture talks on hold. And of course, overall, my thoughts on the season. It looked pretty one-sided. I'm going to say that. If I had to give this season a grade, it was maybe a B minus, a C in terms of the racing. The schedule, it's a D minus. Again, I'm going to keep being harsh on the IndyCar schedule until they balance it out in the future. Excuse me, man. I don't know why I'm so tired today again. Just like last week. But again, D minus in terms of drama, like off track, on track. This was an A minus, man. I'm telling you, this season was more dramatic. This season didn't quite have the parity that we would normally see. Of course, it was quite heavily dominated by Chevy and Team Penske. Most notably, Will Power being consistent but not winning. And then, of course, Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin dominating in the win column. And not even by a close margin. They won quite a handful of races. Pato was strong at some points. We really didn't see much out of the Ganassi camp, and we especially didn't see anything out of the Andretti camp. So I hope that's something that will change next year. I'm hoping we'll see a lot more parity. But again, all attention, though, turns to the offseason, and the biggest question: will Alex Palou be back at Chip Ganassi Racing? And of course, they did end that by asking him that question, and I can't believe NBC would ask him that question, because again, we don't know the future of Alex Palou. It's in the courts right now. It's in the courts, so why ask that question? If he's in court trying to figure this out from a legal perspective, this is something he technically isn't allowed to comment on. Terrible question by Marty and the NBC team. I don't think he'll be back at Chip Ganassi when this is all said and done. What I see happening is that McLaren is going to have to pay quite a hefty fee to pay off Alex Palou's Ganassi contract, and I think ultimately he will not be back with the team after this. Once it went to court, I think it solidified that answer. Of course, one big driver is off the market. We are going to talk about that in a moment. On the IndyCar side, I'm talking about. On the NASCAR side, the top free agent is likely now off the market, and that free agent is Kyle Busch. It was speculated all weekend long Reports coming out from Adam Stern, Jordan Bianchi, Bob Pockrass, Jeff Gluck. Essentially the top four NASCAR insiders all confirming that Kyle Busch will be joining Richard Childress Racing starting in 2023. Of course, the announcement was earlier today. I'm recording on Monday because unfortunately I was not able to record today due to my work schedule. But I imagine this to be true, and I know Kyle Busch has been yanking everybody's chains since all these guys tweeted about it. He's been yanking everybody's chain. So is Dale Jr. They've been both just having a blast with this announcement. And, of course, it is so big for the sport that he will be going there. Again, it's going to change the landscape of it for sure. I know a lot of people have been upset that KBM or that Chevy has ultimately run the lower series, from Xfinity to trucks, and now KBM likely going to become a Chevy team as well with this announcement. It's going to be big for Chevy's development. Of course, Toyota still has drivers under contract, which I believe we're going to go to KBM, assuming that he stayed at 2311 or within the Toyota camp, whether it be at 2311 or Joe Gibbs. So I feel now this kind of messes up Toyota's plans for 2023, as now they are going to have to scramble to either Joe Gibbs is going to have to field a NASCAR Truck Series team, or maybe they get David Gilliland to field Toyotas going into next season, but they are going to need something, because if not, Chandler Smith, big name in the NASCAR Truck Series with Toyota. Corey Heim, another one, expected to run a truck season. Sammy Smith is another one I note. John Hunter, as mentioned, John Hunter's future could be in quite big, or could be a big question. Of course, the other questions, Yahoo, JBL speakers, their futures with KBM as they were paired with Toyota. This is, from every standpoint, this is a massive loss for Toyota in terms of driver development. It is also a massive loss in terms of driver talent. And what they lost, Richard Childress has gained. Of course, Toyota's... It's tough to make this argument because of how strong Denny's been the last handful of years, but Kyle Busch really, to me, spearheaded what Toyota's been able to do at the NASCAR Cup Series level. Kyle Busch has really just spearheaded everything. And the fact that he is no longer a part of TRD's program, and Joe Gibbs, it's going to be a massive loss. It's going to hurt not just, the driver development aspect. It's going to hurt Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole. Again, we saw what... I don't think Toyota's going to regress back to 07 Toyota, where they were just abysmal. But what I do see happening now is with Kyle Busch going to RCR, in all likelihood, Toyota is not going to have that level of success that they had. Of course, Ty Gibbs he's shown flashes of brilliance. It's expected he's going to drive the number 18 again. We will have more. This is a big story that we are following here at Out of Turn 4, and you will want to stay tuned. But, this is going to hurt Toyota from that aspect. Ty Gibbs is a young driver. As much as I hate him, he does have some talent. I just don't think he's going to be good at the Cup level. So you have a guaranteed non-playoff driver in all likelihood. Again, I'm this could be, you could say, well, Brian, you're hating because you just don't like Ty Gibbs because of his name. And you're partially right. But I just don't see him being a playoff driver. He hasn't been consistent this year. He really just, in the Cup Series is what I'm talking. He hasn't been consistent. The last few races, he's been barely staying on the lead lap. I don't see him having any success next year going up to the Cup level. I think it's rushed. So now, Truex, Hamlin, the two anchors of the team, I feel like they're going to struggle next year without Kyle Busch. But at the same time, there's going to be growing pains for both. We don't know if this is going to be, at least I don't know as of when I'm recording, if this is going to be a three-car effort for RCR, if this is going to be a two-car effort and Tyler Reddick is on the out. So that's the other question that's going to factor into all this. But I'm assuming when I'm recording that it's Kyle Busch is going to be in a third car with Reddick being in the second. All I can say is, this is going to be growing pains for both organizations. I do feel Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex will still have a pretty decent, I feel like Hamlin will still have his usual success. Truex, same. But I feel like there's going to be growing pains because now that veteran presence is missing in the garage. That added veteran presence in addition to those two. But at the same time, for Toyota, this is interesting because now that's another car that opens up for the youngsters. It allows the team to get younger, which is something that Joe Gibbs has struggled with. Again, Denny Hamlin's into his 40s. Truex is almost in, if not already into his 40s. Kyle Busch, late 30s. Christopher Bell, mid-20s. They need to get younger. There's no secret there. And adding Ty Gibbs to the fold allows them that chance to get younger, but too soon for Ty Gibbs. That's all I'm going to say as far as the Joe Gibbs aspect. And again, the development aspect speaks for itself with Kyle Busch running the truck program for Toyota, the main truck program. So now, again, questions will surround what's going to happen, with that. And so much stories that we've got to cover as far as this announcement goes. So stay tuned next week. We hope to have a clearer picture, and we hope to be able to tell you more in terms of this story. David Malukas, Dale Coyne, HMD have reached a deal for 2023. Of course, there were rumors from David Land, amongst other YouTubers and amongst Twitter, that David Malukas could join Chip Ganassi Racing in the number 10, following the fact that Alex Palou is still in court. So for Chip Ganassi Racing, the driver market's growing thin. It's growing really thin, and if Plou's not back, I could see this team having to downsize for a year. I could see that being a possibility that they downsize, especially with Eilert and Malukas off the list. Maybe they go to F2 for a driver. I doubt it. But I wouldn't doubt they try to poach somebody from F2 or from F1. I doubt that'll happen. Maybe IMSA they try to poach somebody, but it's not looking good for Chip Ganassi if they want to maintain a 4-car full-time program. And again, with Jimmy Johnson's to-be-determined status still, that's another interesting part of it. But for Coyne and HMD, this is a commitment to winning. David Malukas, late in the year, he really showed how strong he is as a driver, and I feel he's going to have pretty good success behind the wheel next year. I feel like year 2, and I said a lot about this season, but I feel like there's 2 things that we want more of. We want more answers to. And number 1 is, will Christian Lundgaard, the year 2 drivers, Christian Lundgaard, Kyle Kirkwood, David Malukas, I think, and Callum Eilert, those 4, what kind of level of success will they have, if any? Will they get to victory lane is going to be the other big question. Again, those are two, to me, that's the big storyline entering next season is those second-year drivers and what they're going to be able to achieve. So we're going to have to pay attention to this as well. And the other question now, what's going to happen to Chip Ganassi Racing with the uncertainty of Jimmy Johnson, the unlikeliness that Tony Kanaan will run, and, everything else, it's just going to be fun to watch. Speaking of Callum Ilott, going back to that, Juncos Hollinger Racing has announced they will be expanding to a 2-car program in 2023. It was hinted at earlier in the summer, and now it is official. They will be expanding to 2 cars with the 78 joining Callum Ilott in the 77 on track next season. So that leads the question, who are the favorites to get this ride in 2023? I look no further than Santino Ferrucci or Oliver Askew. I feel like with Ilott being such a young driver, they need that veteran presence. Ferrucci is a veteran presence, and he's typically outperformed his equipment in the past. He's run up front. I feel like he could be mid-pack in the IndyCar standings if he gets that ride. So, I feel that lists him as a for sure favorite if they're looking at a second full-time driver. Now, Oliver Askew is going to be another interesting name. Again, he's joined the IMSA circuit this past year, but, his name constantly circles around the IndyCar paddock. It wouldn't shock me to see his name behind the wheel of the 78 as well and get his second chance in IndyCar, because let's be fair, his rookie year was difficult to watch, but he really didn't get a second chance to show what he could do in year number 2. So I feel like those two big names being veteran presences in the paddock will be the two names that will be most talked about as far as who could take the second ride at Juncos Hollinger Racing. Now, the other thing to factor in, Tony Kanaan teased the possibility of joining Juncos Hollinger Racing, of course, by putting up this emoji. So maybe Tony Kanaan's in play, or Tony Kanaan knows something. But that's going to be another interesting one to watch as we go through the long off season until we return about 9 months from now at St. Pete. All right, on to the picks for the weekend. We start with the Truck Series at Bristol, and I have picked Grant Enfinger. He will win and advance to the Championship 4 this weekend for the Truck Series. And the reason I'm picking Grant, of course, GMS, with the exception of last year, GMS has dominated at Bristol in recent years. Ben Kennedy was a winner. Of course, Johnny Sauter, Brett Moffitt, Sam Mayer, also winners for the team in the 2018 to 2020 stretch. And then, of course, Kyle Busch winning in there, Chandler Smith winning in there. So, I wouldn't doubt Chandler Smith is in contention, but I feel this is the GMS track, so Grant Enfinger gets the win. Xfinity Series at Bristol, I wanted to go AJ Allmendinger. He won this race last year. I do think it will be Noah Gragson. He is on a hot streak. He's got tons of confidence, especially after learning he will be going to the Cup Series next year for Petty GMS. So I feel Noah Gragson has the best shot at it today, or Friday night. And then, of course, Cup Series, Bristol night race on Saturday night. Kevin Harvick enters that race in a must-win situation. I feel he will get the win there again. He almost won the race last year before the incidents with Chase Elliott. He won back in 2020, so I feel this is a race for Kevin Harvick to win, and it's one, I feel he will win it to advance into the next round of the playoffs. We want to thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in to No Final Bell tomorrow, and then then tune in on Sunday to Sunday Morning Tinkle. No Final Bell tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, YouTube and Facebook Watch. Sunday morning Tinkle, Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Otherwise, we will see you back here next Tuesday for another edition of Out of Turn 4. Till then, goodbye, everyone.